Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to the sixth, but hopefully not the final episode of Dan Milano Responds. We are going to be taking a look at his responses to my videos on Season 2, Episode 6 of Glitch Text, the Find the Glitch episode. Woohoo, do I have a lot to say about that one? And a quick question about a previous episode, very short, quick response. And then some basic responses to other general videos, including responses he left at the bottom of the interview I did with him. So, now, I said this is the final in this series, but hopefully we will have more because Dan Milano has just been part of a deal with Netflix to animate the amazing story Wings of Fire. And this has put me in a real conundrum because I have not yet read the book series. It's been on my to-read list, but I haven't read many books since I've actually been writing my own books and, of course, running my YouTube channel. And I really have a lot of faith in Milano and any project that he's co-creator on. And so I'm torn. Do I go and do what should be done and read the books first so that I can say, of course, the books were better? Or do I let myself imprint on Milano's creative vision and allow that to be the primary version in my brain, thus altering my perception of the books? It's a hard one. It probably will be determined by how much time I have in the intervening months between the announcement and the actual release of the show. But Wings of Fire animated series, I'm looking forward to it. And I was able to, when I commented on this, I added Snake Discovery, one of my favorite channels. And they actually responded to Milano's response, to my response to his tweet. And so hopefully they can get to know each other a little better. All right, but for now, Milano's responses to my video, Glitch Text Season 2, Episode 2, Find the Glitch. They knew what they were doing, and how very dare you. Now, my main point about this episode is that I don't like clip show episodes. I understand how important they are. I understand that a lot of people need this series refreshed in their brains every so often. But I've never really needed that, and I just found them aggravating. And so I figured I'd just skim through it to do a really quick review that was basically going to be summarized as this was a clip show episode. But aggravatingly enough, I found that they'd actually made it a good episode. And spliced in among the clips were critical plot details that you had to watch in order to appreciate the series. And it drove me nuts because it's still a clip show episode, but it was a good one, and I watched it multiple times. So anyway, I was a little frustrated with this episode, and I tried to present that humorously in my video, and Milano responds. Was recently saying in an interview that this episode was the result of going from 2 studios to 1 and needing to lessen their burden. None of us were excited to do a clip show, but we made it our mission to try and do the best one possible by listing all of the things that made us cringe about clip shows and then trying to do the opposite. They're not relevant to the plot, they can be skimmed through, they rely on tired premises, etc. The inspiration to tell a story came from the 60s Star Trek episode The Menagerie, which was also essentially a clip show. In that episode, the Enterprise computer recounts cinematic clips for Captain Kirk while Mr. Spock is put on trial for treason. Thanks to our writers suggesting a game of werewolf, as starting innocently and then turning into a trial, we had a modern context to frame the show. And by giving control of this tribunal to a bunch of contemporary teenagers meant they would be more fascinated with their ability to recall footage than actually getting to the bottom of the case. The first thing written into the script was Mitch's case against Me-K.O. We knew that that was our third act and basically had to build towards it, slowly cranking up the intensity of our irreverent use of clips until Mitch was finally ready to burst. It felt like we'd never fill up all the time we needed, hence Mitch accusing Five twice, but after a while it seemed like we had created a pretty natural flow to the conversation and the way the clips were being used. The irreverence itself was also played a role in the story by implying that it was Miko's way of throwing off her own trial. Having friends at MST 3000, I think that's Mystery Science Theater 3000, inspired our use of overlaid graphics, but instead of silhouettes against the screen, our first idea, we ended up using chibi cutouts that had appeared in other episodes, with a few designed especially for this one. Since they didn't require animation, they were a great way to keep the characters alive while still not creating any new footage. We tried to have very strict rules about what clips to use, but we ended up having to break a few by the very end, including one clip that nobody seems to notice is from an episode that comes after this one. Smiley face, he 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 he. All right, and my response to this was, you crafted something fascinating here. What I find interesting is how much people are engaging with it. Half of the comments are people talking about how they are interacting with other family members and friends because of this episode. Most of the time, the fandom doesn't even remember the clip show episode. On the other hand, I've never thought of the menagerie as a clip show episode, but that's probably because I watched it before I could read, let alone critique cinematic style. To which Milano responds, read the menagerie. It wasn't a clip show in the traditional sense, because the clips it pulled from were an unaired pilot that was never intended to be seen. Gene Roddenberry was running out of time and money in his first season and was short 2 scripts, so he decided to pull footage from the pilot to construct a 2-part episode that used footage from Spock's past. It's pretty genius and always fascinated me. I've always been a Trek fan, but during the development and production of Glitch Text, I'd been reading These Are the Voyages, a series of intensive books about making the original Star Trek series. I'd say 90% of the approach to Glitch Text was inspired by 60s Trek, particularly episodes like Adventures in Pet Training, which literally takes our characters to an alien planet where they learn to communicate with alien creatures and come to question the meaning of reality itself. Lol. My response, so much suddenly makes sense. And moving on, back in The New Recruit, there was a scene that was done in a distinctly different art style, and that just popped out to me. So I posed this question: who are these 2 men done in cameo art in season 2, episode 5, The New Recruit? Because in the scene in a battle in the bowling alley parking lot, the top gets sliced off a car with 2 gentlemen inside, and they are done in a art style that is really only used for cameos in animated series. And Milano immediately responded, "We've shouted it out on Twitter using the screen cap. Gabe Swar is behind the new Animaniacs reboot and consulted for us on Glitch Text, and Mika, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, is our tech consultant, a major game developer, and an ultimate game historian collector." My response to this was, "Thank you. Those mugs just artistically shout out, and I needed to know." Smiley face. All right, and moving on to some comments that Dan left on an interview show. I mean, this was really above and beyond of him, because I'd asked him some questions during the interview, and he remembered things after the interview that he put in the comments. So, for the video, Glitch Text co-creator Dan Milano answers my weird questions about himself, the show, and animation. He responds, "At 35:23, Betty asks if it hurt us to prune some character details at any point. I forgot to mention that in the original script for Smashazors, Mitch initially had more character development, which needed to be cut for time. The cut material better motivated his cold view of the possessor glitch, and also made clear that his method of apprehending Casino was intense but not life-threatening. It was also arguably the more responsible way of handling the situation, since Mitch wanted to snare and bring Casino to headquarters, whereas 5 was less experienced and personally involved, and preferred to flee with Casino and find his own solution. Once you realize Casino is in more danger the longer the glitch goes untreated, Mitch's method makes more sense. We had to cut all of this for time, which made Mitch more of a true villain than was originally intended. You will notice that as the show goes on, we work hard to avoid making any character feel too one-sided in their thinking. It was very hard to balance our stories, especially early on when people were still learning so much about the world itself. We always wanted Mitch to seem hard and cold. He isn't the type to just stop and explain his motives to others, but at the same time, we love the idea that he could often be right in his actions. So it was his personality that was the problem, not his intentions. The lack of communication was meant to be the obstacle between the characters." My response was, "Ooh, thank you for the clarification. The kind of brutal but ultimately safer medical efficiency angle was what I was reading into the scene, and until others questioned the interpretation, I sure didn't. So I think you balanced the time Mitch had on screen fairly well, and the version that went to print, as it were, does allow for a more vigorous debate. So there is that." Smiley face. Moving on to part 2, Glitch Text of the interview. Milano responds in this we discussed my question to him in the interview was, is the show ever going to address the grotesque human rights violations in Hinobi? And we discussed that some in the second part of the interview, and he responds in the text, I should mention that the immoral side of Hinobi is really a metaphor for the footprint left by companies whose delightful inventions come at the cost of global impact on energy, environment, foreign labor, etc. As consumers, we use products without knowing the consequences, and often even when we do, we can be naive or believe in authorities that soothe our concerns. My response: thanks for the clarification. That is a rather perennial consequence of, well, being alive in general. There are always unintended consequences. All right, my wonderful viewers, thank you for listening through this. I am very grateful to Milano for taking all of this time to respond and answer questions. The man's really a natural teacher, and he has dropped some very good information if you're a writer or a creator of any sort. And I'm excited that he's going to be animated a dragon cartoon. I'm really looking forward to that. I hope I can continue to interact with him through that. And again, I've just got the question of, should I read the books first or not? All right, well, if you are looking to read an interesting book that won't spoil anything for an upcoming animated series, go check out in the links in the description, Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data, a book of human absurdity. Short stories like Lichtek's highly influenced by 60s Trek, featuring the absurdity of human nature. And if you want to break your heart and be a little creeped out, check out Dying Embers, Dragons, Aliens, and Things That Go Boom in the Night. Peace out, my wonderful viewers.
The book from author Betty Adams, Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data, is a humorous look at human behavior through the eyes of aliens. This book is arranged in separate reports or essays, documenting the experiences with humanity through the lens of the aliens who have to interact with them. This anthology of short stories and vignettes from alien points of view highlights some of humanity's quirks we can all relate to. Author Betty Adams captures how strange and interesting humans can really be. This is a fun collection of stories you will really get a kick out of. Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data, from author Betty Adams. Order your copy right now on Amazon.